Hey y'all, welcome back to the KMS podcast, Killing Me Softly podcast with Cat Branch. I hope you all are doing well. I hope you're doing well. But before we get started today, I just had to take a moment to send my thoughts and prayers to the people of Los Angeles, California, and the surrounding areas. All of them are in my thoughts and prayers, but specifically the community of Altadena, um, where my understanding is that the was the first place that Black Americans were able to purchase property in that community. And we all know that in many cases we have limited resources and we may not have what we need to be able to move forward as quickly as other populations might be able to. And so I definitely want to say that my heart again goes out to that community and everyone out there. I specifically know someone personally whose brother and his family have lost everything in those fires. So I will leave a link to their GoFundMe page in the show notes. And if you can find it in your heart, if you're able to, of course, please go out and support he and his family as they begin to move forward one step at a time, obviously. But again, I'm praying for them because something like this happens. Yes, it's devastating to the community and as a whole, obviously, but then too to be a person, a human who sees what's happening. It's all consuming. If you really, watch videos and stay in the news, it's like it impacts us all. It really, really does. I can specifically remember, I can't remember what year it was when Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans, and to see the devastation. I remember lying on my couch watching that for days. So we all have seen the impact that disasters like this have on a community, especially on the significant impact that it can continue to have on minority communities. So again, if you can, please donate to he and his family. And yeah, thank you so much. So in today's episode, I wanted to first catch up again to see how your week has been, share how my week has been, and then we'll get more into some of the things that happened after I found out about the loss of my job and a possible life-changing health diagnosis. But first with the week. Last week was pretty good. It was good. I don't know. I think I've shared it on here. I'm sure I did, about 75 hard and going through. This is my second round going through 75 hard, and yesterday made day 15. Well, today makes day 16. But yesterday was day 15 and we had our weigh-in, and I was very pleased with the results of my weigh-in. For the past 16 days, I have logged every day, logged my food every day. And what I have learned from that is that when you are logging your food, and not only logging your food, but I use a scale that was recommended by my coach Tia, who is it's not crazy, but The person whose brother lost everything in the fire in California, her name is Tia. And then my behavior change specialist coach, her name is Tia as well. So if I happen to say Tia, one is Tia P and the other is Tia S. So Tia S, who is again my behavior change specialist, she recommended that we purchase a scale, a food scale. And I've had this food scale, let me preface this. I've had this food scale for 2 months. No, probably October or November. I've had this food scale. And I've used it here and there. I used it here and there before the end of 2024, but not as consistently as I have been using it for the past 16 days. And let me tell you this. Even if you use something like MyFitnessPal, which again is a great resource, using a scale that weighs your food is life-changing. It is absolutely life-changing. Because, say for instance, I enjoy sourdough, right? And on the packaging, it says that a slice of sourdough is 110 calories per slice, right? And I learned this morning. So I very easily could have, instead of just scanning the barcode, let it say, okay, 110 calories per slice. I said I wanted 2 slices because I'm counting, all of this is tied to my macros and the amount of carbs, fat, and protein that I can have. So again, the packaging says 110 calories per slice. When I put those 2 slices on my scale, it was 257 calories. Again, my first meal of the day. I know how my day is going to go. I'm, working from home, doing all the things from her, right now, doing my own branding thing. And, I'm working for myself from home. Let me say that. So that being said, I know how my day is going to go. So I don't necessarily eat 3 full meals a day. I may have a breakfast, a smaller lunch, which could just consist of a banana, yogurt, and possibly some other form of protein. And then my dinners are lower in carbs. And then I might be getting, say, vegetables, more vegetables, maybe my carbs than actual, bread or something like that. But anywho, so I know how to manage my day. But again, I put the sourdough on the scale and it said 257 calories. That's a lot different than what the nutrition facts say on the back of the bread. Because if I had just put in, if I had just scanned the barcode and not weighed it, then I would have put in 220 calories and been 30 calories under. And also, I wouldn't have, it wouldn't have indicated the correct amount of carbs. So I was like, okay, girl, this scale is where it's at. Because usually with my bread, I will just want, because I'm like, oh, it says, but something told me, these slices vary in size. Because you know how with a sourdough loaf, on the ends, the slices of bread are smaller. And then when you get to the middle, they become larger. So I was glad that, because I had 2 slices yesterday. The 2 slices that I had yesterday were smaller in quantity as far as calories are going, versus what I had today. So I just had to say, y'all might want to check out a food scale, because definitely by me doing that, it has had me to be more mindful of what I eat, how I eat it, and when I eat it. I am in love with this food scale. And basically, because of the results that I saw on the scale yesterday, I'm like, okay, I'm good to go. Because that has been the main focus for me this round of 75 Hard. And one of the things that Tia wanted us to really focus on is our nutrition. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I don't have any issue with exercise. My issue is nutrition. And so I'm very grateful that to be able to see that I'm doing something, I committed to it, and then being able to see the result of that yesterday. So we move. 15 days down. Well, today's 16 days down, 59 days to go. And I think that's it, for my updates as far as what I'm doing for my nutrition. When it comes to work, I am seeking employment. I will say that in this process, it's been very not easy. It has not been easy to put a lot of effort into applications and into cover letters and doing all these things and get rejected. That's really what it is. I'm being rejected. But although that could be something that would have historically upset me, I heard someone say this recently, rejection is redirection. And so even though I am getting rejected from positions, I haven't had an actual interview since November, maybe? Yeah, I haven't had an interview since November. But again, I can appreciate the rejections because they're redirections to what specifically God has for me. And I'm grateful for that. Sometimes we get so bombarded and we think that the journey, let me speak for me. I have thought that my journey should be a straight path. And now at almost the big age of 49, I'm like, girl, why would you expect that when your journey has never been a straight path? It has never. I think, I had this fairy tale in my mind about, I have a fairy tale in my mind and then my reality is different from that. And so it's like, girl, you can have hope. Now there's always hope, but that hope is that God is with you no matter what situations come about. So yeah, that's pretty much, what's been happening on, the interview and the applying for jobs. I did, and I want to say here that I had a friend of mine that took me into consideration for a role. And shout out to Stephanie. Girl, I love you. If you ever see this, thank you so much. But what I realized is that even in that process, God spoke to me. And at first I thought, well, if I'm not supposed to go in this direction, what direction am I supposed to go in? And what he showed me was that he wanted me to remain open to him. He wanted me to remain open to knowing that in this season of your life, you're going to need people to support you, to walk alongside you as you go in a completely different direction than you've ever gone through before. So a lot of this has been me submitting to what God has for me, submitting to my relationship with him. Because in a lot of ways, I'm like, I said it last week, if it had just been the job, period. But it had to be those two things back to back so that I could completely be at a point and a place to recognize that, girl, I can't do nothing but lean and completely depend on my Heavenly Father. And that is what I have been doing. That is what I continue to do. And that is the only reason why I have continued to be in a place of peace. I will say this though, did I start out there? Absolutely not. I don't want to make it seem like, oh, all of this happened. And no, I said it last week. I was weak. I felt crazy. I didn't know what was happening, how I got here, what is going on. Somebody playing games. No, I was in disarray. I was turned upside down. But it was God's grace that kept me mentally, spiritually, and physically when I couldn't keep myself, because of the people that I had around me. My husband, my best friend, my prayer partner, my mentor, my church. Even in that process, I knew that I had to do things that kept me moving, that kept my mind going. And even as I sit here, it makes me think about the fact that I've always been a person that I'm not going to give up. In my weight loss journey throughout my life, I'm going to keep trying. I'm going to keep trying. I'm never going to stop. I'm going to try again. I have never been the type of person, or just, I won't say type of person. I've never been a person to give up. It's always been in me. And I think partly is because I was raised in the house with my grandfather. My grandfather, his name was Albert Mungin, was born in 1923. October 17th, 1923. And to be raised in the house with my grandfather, I was able to see strength, perseverance, and someone who depended totally and completely on God. My grandfather had a 5th grade education, and he never gave up. There are so many things that I learned from him. He was a retired longshoreman. What I'm talking about, longshoreman? No, excuse me. He was a retired truck driver. He was a retired truck driver, and the company was Tamiami Gateway. That was the name of the company. It was Tamiami Gateway. So he was a retired truck driver, and as long as I can remember, my granddaddy retired from truck driving. He was a World War II vet, a deacon in our church, the janitor, the finance man, a jack of all trades, the bus driver for the church. You name it, he did it. And so I learned so much from that man. Like, he did it all. And he did it all with grace. He did it all with precision. Two of the things that I can remember most about doing things well is that even in struggle, my grandfather did things well. I remember, I would go to church with him when he would do everything, because my mom worked. My mom is a retired nurse. And so on the weekends, granddaddy at church, I'm at church, right? So I remember going to church with him. We would be cleaning the church, and I would want to do everything that he did. He would mop that floor in the dining room with so much precision. Like, there was a specific way that he had to do things. There was a rhythm to his life and how he navigated. He got up early in the morning. He went in there in that kitchen. He put on his clothes. Got completely dressed at 5 a.m. Got completely dressed. And All his clothes on. 5 a.m. He ready for the day. Retired. He go in that dining room, pull out his Bible. He gonna read his scriptures, and then he gonna pray. He gonna get that done. Then he gonna wake me up for school. He gonna get me up to school, make sure I'm up. He gonna keep coming in at him to make sure I'm up. And then he's gonna get my breakfast going. Then he gonna get me out to school. And the same precision that he lived with what we think is the mundane thing, like I'm getting up every day, I gotta, get my grandbaby going every day, is the same precision that he used in mopping that dining room floor in the church social hall, in how he vacuumed that red carpet in the sanctuary. That sanctuary, the lines in that carpet had to go a certain way. So he vacuumed that floor in a certain direction. And I used to say, Granddaddy, let me help. No. He wouldn't let me help. Just watch. But I kept watching. And then one day, you know what he said? Okay, boo-boo, you could try. And when I tried, do you know how I mopped that floor, or how I vacuumed that carpet? The same exact way that he taught me to, just by watching. And sometimes in this life, you just have to sit still and watch and wait and be patient. And then you know what happens? You get your turn. You get your turn to show up, to be all that you were created to be. You get your turn. And so what's so funny in this podcast today is that I didn't even come on here to talk about that. I came on here to talk about something else. But one thing that I have committed to in this process, in this new era of my life, is that I'm getting things done. I'm getting them done. And how I get them done is by allowing God to be who he is, and not sitting back and waiting on something to be perfect. Because life is never perfect. You're going to have ups. You're going to have downs. You're going to have seasons of meh. It's just all a part of the process and his plan. I guess Muffins, my dog, Miss Muffins, is yawning, so I guess she's bored. But again, nothing will be perfect. And so I'm committed to sometimes coming on here with a format and sometimes not. Sometimes just coming on here to tell a story, and it leads to something else. Because the amazing thing about that is that whatever it is, because of my heart posture, God will not allow anything to be wasted. He will not allow anything to be wasted. So what I know for sure is my best friend and her cousin always say is done is better than perfect. Done is better than perfect. So I got this done, and I'm grateful for that today. And so again, I think the biggest takeaway for today's episode is that I learned a lot from my grandfather. I learned a lot from him. I mean, it's so amazing to me that maybe probably was last month or maybe in November, I just really felt a heavy weight of grief. And, you know, sometimes you miss that love. Not sometimes, you always miss the love, but I think sometimes, you know, people always say that the grief never really goes away. And I think for me it hasn't. Again, it never will, but you learn how to manage it. And I think God allows that so you can remember the love experienced here on earth that doesn't compare to his love, but in a lot of ways gave you a glimpse into the love that he has for you. So that's all I got today, y'all. That's all I got. Thank you so much for listening. If you're listening to the podcast, thank you so much. If you're watching, however, whatever medium you're using, thank you. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your support. And I hope as you go throughout the remainder of this week that you remember that God loves you. He does. He does so very much. At our deepest points of despair, he loves us, and his strength is made perfect in our weakness. So cast every care upon him, because he truly cares for you. Take care, and I'll talk to you next week. Bye.